A very good afternoon, dear viewers. So I, Dr. Sayyeda Aman Hashmi, PGT of English, KVS, New Delhi, is here with you, Secondary English Lesson 1, Snake Bite. Fine. So are you ready to learn snake bite? Let's start. Snake Bite is a story written by Shankar, and it is taken from this work Life with Grandfather. It is the story from this collection. Objectives. So dear children, what you are going to learn after the completion of this lesson? So dear viewers, we are going to discuss the theme of the story, relate to the feelings and behavior of reptiles and other living creatures, think critically about people's superstitions and blind faith in untrained medicine men. Think critically about the myth that all snakes are dangerous. Realize the importance of timely and effective communication. Realize that silence is not always good. Use some new words in meaningful sentences. Give the past tense of some commonly used verbs. Discriminate between regular and irregular verbs. Form adverbs from adjectives and use them appropriately. Frame requests and inquiries and write short description of people. Oh, so this is what we are going to learn today. But dear children, before we move ahead, I want to ask you some of the questions. Like, have you ever teased an animal? Think of it. As far as I am concerned, I remember I have never teased an animal. If it is so with you, it's good. But if it is not, yes, be honest. What did your elders have to say to you? Though I have never experienced, but I think that the elders will always forbade us doing it, always stop us doing it, right? So how did the animal react? Yes, how did the animal react? Sometimes I think maybe the animal is scared, or sometimes the animals are in attacking mode. Yes, so teasing always have two actions. Either they will be scared or will be in attacking mode. Did you think about how the animals feel? I don't think so. That you have ever felt? Yes, even I think, yes, sometimes with our pets, we often think what their feelings are. And sometimes looking at the animals on the roadside, we have the same feeling. Do you feel about the animals? Yes, definitely. So then think, what are your feelings for animals? So dear children, the story which we are going to learn today is about a narrator, Raja, who is an innocent young boy. He is adventurous and likes to meddle with creatures like snakes and bees. His grandparents are concerned about his well-being and safety. Once, when a bee stings him, they think he has been bitten by a snake. His grandfather takes him to a man whom he believes can cure snake bite. So dear children, let us read the story and see what happens. So here is the text in front of you. One day, I saw a small snake in the compound. It was crawling along slowly, but when it saw me, it moved away quickly and hid itself in a coconut shell. I quietly went near and closed the mouth of the coconut shell with a stone. Then I took the shell and ran to grandmother. So who is I here? I, the character, the story, the hero of the story. So he's a small boy. So he found a small snake in the compound. Compound is an enclosed area generally shared by people. And what was that doing? That snake was doing? It was crawling along slowly. But the moment it saw the narrator, it hid itself in a coconut shell. Can you think why? Can you guess it? Yes, it was afraid in order to defend himself. But this naughty boy, he quietly went near and closed the mouth of the coconut shell with a stone. Then I took the shell and ran to grandmother. Then he took the shell and ran to grandmother. Then what happened? Look, grandma, I cried. I have caught a snake. Snake? Asked the grandmother in alarm. She was shocked. She cried for help. Grandfather came running. When he learned that I had a snake in the shell, he snatched the shell and threw it away. A very natural reaction from grandmother. The moment she come to know the narrator is with a snake in the coconut shell, she cried for help. And yes, a very alert grandfather, he came running. And when he learned that there is a snake in the shell, he snatched that shell and threw it away. The snake crawled away and disappeared behind some bushes. Grandfather warned me never to go near a snake because snakes were very dangerous. Later in the evening, I tried to catch a bee and it stung me on my finger. I felt a sharp pain. So, what happened? That snake which was thrown by grandfather, it disappeared. It crawled. Snakes crawl. They don't walk. The snakes crawl. They simply push their body forward and on the ground. So the grandfather, and plus what the grandfather do? The grandfather warned the boy not to go near the snakes because snakes are dangerous. And later in the evening, what happened? Something new happened. Because this boy was very fond of catching bees and playing with snakes. Yes, he was catching a bee, and what happened? The bee stung on his finger. And when the bee stung on his finger, obviously, he started experiencing pain. He felt pain. And yes, a small boy. Then what happened next? We are going to see. I ran to grandmother and told her that I had been bitten and wanted her to do something to stop the pain. Grandfather thought that I had been bitten by a snake. She called out to grandfather, "Come and see what had happened to Raja." So this small boy, Raja, when he was stung by the bee, he ran towards his grandmother. Why? Because he was feeling pain in his finger. And he said, I had been bitten. But before he could tell anything that who has actually bitten him, grandmother started crying, shouting, and she called grandfather. She thought that Raja is stung by a snake. Oh, such a tragedy. And grandfather came running towards them. Grandfather came at once. He looked at my finger and there was a blue mark without a word. He took me in his arm and started running. He ran across the garden and through the paddy fields. He ran and did not stop until he reached a small house quite some distance away from our home. Then he shouted for the man who lived there. So, the moment grandfather came there and he come to know that the boy, he is stung by something. Probably they thought it is a snake, because early in the morning he was playing with snake and he was warned not to do so, but obviously he was a child. So the elder parents, they thought that he is stung by a snake because his finger was having a blue mark. Without saying anything and without inquiring from the child, the grandfather took him in his arm and started running. And he ran across the garden, through the paddy fields. He ran and did not stop until he reached a small house. And this small house was only a few distance away from their home. And then he shouted for the man who lived there. Why do you think why do you think he shouted? Yes, because of tension. Because he was simply worried about the small grandson. He was thinking that some snake has stung him, and probably because he was experiencing pain, maybe by a poisonous snake. So that's why he called that medicine man. He went to his house and he called him to come out. An old grey-haired man came out of the house. He knew the cure for snake bite. Grandfather asked him to cure me. The old man, so what happened? This old grey-haired came out of the house. And probably all the villagers used to think that he is the medicine man who knew how to cure the snake bite. And that's why grandfather took the boy to him and requested him to cure the boy. Okay? The boy was taken in front of the man. He looked at me and asked me to sit down. I sat on grandfather's lap. Okay? So he sat on grandfather's lap. And that man, he took a bowl of water and he started, what he did, the old man then took some water in a small brass vessel, sat in front of us and started reciting some mantras. So what did the old man do? He simply took some water in a small brass vessel. He sat in front of them and then he started reciting some mantras. So he was simply blowing, reading some mantras and blowing on the water. Okay? I want to tell him that it was not a bee, not a snake that had bitten me. But the grandfather held me tight and did not allow me to talk. Grandmother too had arrived by then and some other people with her. They looked sad and silently watched me. So, nobody asked the child what has actually happened. They were all very active, taking all measures, all steps, but without asking anything from the child, and not even asking. They were not even allowing the child to say that he was not bitten by a snake, rather he was bitten by a bee. Anyways, now see here what happened. Not only grandfather was there at the place of that medicine man, but grandmother too arrived by then, and also villagers. Village people are very much social. They are always concerned about other people. So not only grandmother, but some other people also came along with her. And everybody was sad. And they all were silently watching the narrator. Why they were sad? Yes, because they thought that the narrator was stung by a snake, probably a poisonous snake, and his life is in danger. Anyway, bee sting, something happened to the bee sting. Then what happened? By the time the pain in my finger had stopped, but still I had to sit there and get cured for snake bite. Yes, so the sting of the bee, it lost its effects by that time, and the pain in his finger also stopped. But still, he had to sit there and get treatment for the snake bite by the village medicine men. After a few minutes, the old man got up, washed my finger, and gave me some water to drink. He asked me to keep quiet for some more time. Then he turned to grandfather and said, "Thanks God you brought Raja in time. He is out of danger now. It was indeed a poisonous snake that bit him." So what you could make out from this paragraph? What type of man was he? Was he really a medicine man? No, he was actually a cunning and a shrewd man who simply befooled grandfather. Why? See his comment. He said, "Thank God you brought Raja well in time. He is out of danger now, and he was bitten by a poisonous snake. And Raja knows it, and we know it, that he was not stung by a snake. Poisonous snake is a secondary thing. He was bitten by a bee. The only problem is nobody actually asked him or allowed him to say. Everybody took the control of him, and everything happened with him." Fine. See what happened next. Grandfather, grandmother, and all other thanked the old man for the magic cure. On returning home, grandfather sent him gifts. Okay, so what happened? All grandfather, grandmother, and all the other villagers, everybody thanked the old man for the magic cure because they believed his words. What were his words? His words were that he was bitten by a poisonous snake and he is now out of danger. Was he really a medicine man, or he has given some medicine to Raja? No, he has not given any medicine to Raja. Rather, he has simply recited some of the mantras, blew it on the water and gave it to the boy. Is it really a medicine? And yes, on returning home, grandfather sent him gift. Why? For to thank him for saving the life of the boy, their beloved grandson. Fine. So this is the story by Shankar. And yes, it really gives a real picture of the Indian villages and the beliefs of the people. Not only the beliefs, but also the superstitions of people. They believe that some mantras are going to cure a thing like snake bite. Imagine. Fine. So let's proceed. Let us understand the text 1.21 part 1. From one day I saw till were very dangerous. So here's, have you ever seen snakes in your neighborhood? One day Raja sees a snake in his compound. He carries it home in a coconut shell. His grandmother is shocked to know that there is a snake inside the shell. His grandfather throws the shell away and tells Raja that creatures like snakes are dangerous. His grandparents worry about his safety. His grandfather tells him never to go near a snake again. Yes, so this was the first part. So let us discuss some in-text questions given in your textbook. Why do you think the snake hid itself? Yes, very clear. The snake hid himself just to save himself from Raja. What did Raja do when he saw the snake going into the coconut shell? Yes, he closed the coconut shell with a stone. Why was grandfather shocked? Grandmother shocked. Yes, grandmother was shocked to know that he is carrying a snake in the coconut shell. And what was her reaction? Actually, she got panicked. She shouted and cried for help from grandfather. Okay, imagine you are Raja's grandfather. Raja brings home a snake. How do you think you would react? The question wants your answers. And if you talk about my reaction, yes, I would have not snatched the snake from his hand. Rather, I would have taken the snake very softly from his hand and also warning him, snakes are generally dangerous, so please don't play with snake. Yes, now come to true and false. So here are some true or false in front of you. The snake hid under a stone. No, false, because the snake hid himself inside a coconut shell. Raja was very excited to see the snake. Yes, because he brought that snake to grandmother. Raja's grandparents were very worried to see the coconut shell with the snake in it. Yes, their reactions show they were very much worried. The coconut shell broke and the snake crawled away. No, it never happened. It was actually thrown away and the snake crawled. Not by breaking the shell, but moving easily out of the shell. Find words from the passage which mean the opposite of the following words. For, very easy, near. And we have seen it was there in the book. Text, opened, closed, appeared, disappeared, always, never. Now we are going to match column A with column B, and here are the opposites, antonyms we call them. Quietly, noisily, slowly, quickly, went, came, dangerous, harmless. Now here is a fact sheet in front of you. Do you know that there are about 2,000 species of snakes in the world? All snakes are not poisonous, mind you, very important point. In India, there are 270 species, of which only 70 are poisonous. So you can imagine. Some snake species are the cobra, the krait, the flower snake, the rat snake, the python, and the Russell's viper. Snakes have good vision. All snakes are color blind. Snakes have different habitats. Some snakes live in holes, other in warm seas, semi-deserts, swamps, and trees. The biggest snake in the world is the anaconda, found in the jungles of South America. It can grow to the size of a full-grown man. The smallest snake can be just 10 centimeters long. Fine? So let's talk. We are now going to learn how to make requests. When you ask someone to do something for you or ask for permission to do something, it is important to sound polite. Here are some ways in which you can do this. So what are these ways? Let's see. Requesting someone to do something for you. Could you shut the door for me, please? Would you mind passing the paper, please? Can you suggest a movie I could watch over the weekend? Now here are some sentences asking someone for permission to do something. Can I use your computer, please? Could you lend me some money? Do you mind if I turn on the fan? And yes, now here is the exercise. So now you can use the examples given in the slides given above and also in your text to make simple requests. Okay? Fine. Now let us move to part 2. Later in the evening till lived there. Do you like playing with animals? Did you or anyone ever get scratched by a cat or bitten by a dog while playing? How did your parents react to this? Raja is curious about creatures like snakes and bees. In the evening, when he tries to catch a bee, he gets stung. Then what happened? He runs for help to his grandmother and shows her the sting. She immediately thinks that it is a snake bite. His grandfather looks at the bite and thinks exactly the same thing. He picks up and runs to the house of a man who he believes can help them. Raja does not get a chance to tell anyone that he has been bitten by a bee and not a snake. Sometimes people misunderstand and react to situation without listening or asking questions. Has this ever happened to you? So you just keep on thinking. We are going on a short break, and after that just be ready with your responses. Till then, think of this question. Fine?
कोविड-19 यानी कोरोना वायरस देश एवं संपूर्ण विश्व में व्याप्त विषाणुजन्य समस्या। लाखों लोग इस संक्रमण की चपेट में। इसका निदान है जागरूकता के साथ हम और आप स्वयं। कोरोना वायरस के इस संक्रमण से संपूर्ण भारतवर्ष भी एक विकट स्वास्थ्य की परिस्थितियों से जूझ रहा है। भारत सरकार द्वारा गांवों से शहरों तक व्यापक जांच, उपचार और विभिन्न नैदानिक व्यवस्थाएं की गई हैं, लेकिन अभी हमें करना है इससे बचाव। बचाव है आपस में 2 गज की दूरी रखें, मास्क जरूर लगाएं, हाथों को बार-बार साबुन से धोएं और हाँ, आरोग्य सेतु ऐप पर लॉगिन अवश्य करें। घर पर रहें और NIOS की स्व अध्ययन सामग्री से पढ़ते रहें। आपके लिए PM ई-विद्या पर टीवी, रेडियो वाहिनी और मुक्त विद्यावाणी पर ऑडियो कार्यक्रमों का प्रसारण भी NIOS द्वारा किया जा रहा है। आपसे एक ही अनुरोध है, जब भी छींकें, मुंह और नाक को ढकना ना भूलें। भीड़ भाड़ में जाने से बचें और सामाजिक दूरी का पालन करें। और एक बात, जब तक वैक्सीन नहीं आती तब तक मास्क को ही वैक्सीन समझें। साफ रहें, स्वच्छ रहें और स्वस्थ रहें। 2 गज दूरी, मास्क है जरूरी। किसी भी आपदा की स्थिति में संपर्क करें टोल फ्री नंबर 1075 011 23978046। ईमेल करें ncov2019@gov.in।
प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने। पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने हम, अपना जीवन स्वयं बने हम, अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय का है द्वार खुला सबकी बातें।
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर।
शिक्षा और परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर। दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बहुत,
कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने हम, अपना जीवन स्वयं बने हम, अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने हम, स्वयं बने हम,
So welcome viewers, we are back with the same lesson, snake bite. And yes, before going on break, I have given you questions to think. Now let us come to in-text questions of part 2. Why did the bee sting Raja? We know that he was playing with the bees, and in that the bee stung him. Okay? Why did Raja go to his grandmother? Because he was experiencing pain. He was feeling pain. So that's why he went to his grandmother, because he thought she is going to help him with the pain. What did his grandmother think? Yes, his grandmother thought that he was stung by a snake. Why did she think so? Yes, she thought so because Raja was playing with snakes in the morning. So she thought that maybe he was playing with the snakes again and some snake has bitten him. Okay? Why do you think his grandmother should have done when Raja came to her after being stung by a bee? So you may have your own opinion, but if you ask my opinion, I would say that his grandmother should have not overreacted. Actually, his grandmother has overreacted. She should have first of all confirmed from him, who has bitten you? Okay? So if if Raja has replied to this question, or if he had got a chance to tell them who has actually bitten him, then all that thing which has happened would have not happened. Okay? So think before action. This is the most important thing. And don't get nervous like the grandmother of Raja. What would have happened if Raja had been bitten by a snake, but his grandmother believed that he was bitten by a bee? Your opinions, but if you ask my opinion, then it would have been a drastic, it would have been very dangerous. it would have proved fatal. Yes, we know all snakes are not poisonous, but suppose if the snake who would have bitten Raja, and his grandmother has mistaken it to be a bee bite, then it would have been dangerous for the life of Raja. Okay. Now we have come to true and false. So here the first sentence in front of you. Raja's grandfather got very worried to see the blue mark on Raja's finger. Yes, because looking at the blue mark on Raja's finger, he took him in his arm and started running. Raja had to run through the paddy fields with his grandfather. No, absolutely not. It's a false statement. Why? Because his grandfather took him in his arm and he started running. Fine? Raja and his grandfather ran to catch the bee. No, they didn't know even it was bee. If the grandfather and the grandmother, they didn't even allow Raja to tell them who has actually bitten him. Raja's grandfather had to run a long distance carrying Raja in his arm. Yes, he has to cross the garden, he has to cross the paddy field a long way. Raja's grandfather shouted because he was angry. No, he didn't shout because he was angry. Actually, he was desperate. He was panicked and he wanted the medicine man to come out immediately and cure Raja. Okay, so this statement is wrong. He was not angry, rather he was worried. Now we are going to learn new words, and here are some words and you have to search the meaning of it. Stain, mark. Fine. So the word in your text is mark, far, a distance away. It was a distant away. Ache, pain. Now we are going to fill in the blanks with the appropriate word from the text. So here are fill in the blanks. She is wearing a diamond ring on her index finger. I have dash in my legs because I am tired. Pain. Or I have pain in my legs because I am tired. I grow colorful flowers in my garden. Farmers plow their field with tractors. So all these words are in your text. Now here are some sentences in front of you. Snakes hiss, bees buzz, cats mew, parrots talk. So underlined words denote the sounds made by the creatures mentioned in the above sentences. Now let us find out what other animals' sounds are. So here is column A and B in front of you and you have to match. Lions. Yes, roar. Lions roar. Elephants trumpet. Donkeys bray. Monkeys chatter. Cows moo or low. And bears growl. They growl actually. Dear children, here is a fact sheet in front of you. Do you know? Bees live in colonies or hives of 50,000 bees and on an average. Bees have an inborn ability to communicate. Bees' language is a language of smells and dancing. Bees sting only in self-defense. After digging, a bee dies instantly. A bee sting is painful. When stung by a bee, one should remove the stinger as quickly as possible. The use of an ice pack reduces the swelling and the pain of a bee sting. So you come to know what could be the cure for bee sting. It is ice and the use of ice pack. It can help with swelling and pain, not the mantras and water. Okay? So now let us come to the third part. An old grey-haired man till grandfather sent him gifts. When you fall ill or get hurt, you usually go to a doctor if you live in a city or a town. But in most villages, doctors are not easily available. So villagers usually go to the village medicine man for help, like the man in the story. He was actually medicine man, and I don't think that he was having any degree or any qualification in that. He was rather, instead of a medicine man, he was a man who does the cure with the mantras and jap and all these things. Fine. So he was not a medicine man, rather he was a spiritual man who tried to cure the things with those mantras or the verses. Fine. This is what happens with Raja too. Raja's grandparents think that the bee sting on his finger is a snake bite. His grandfather picks him up and runs across the fields to the house of a medicine man. The medicine man convinces them that Raja's life is in danger because of the poisonous snake bite. Raja's finger stops hurting before the medicine man gives him any treatment, but Raja does not tell anyone this. So, the man said that it was a bite of a poisonous snake, but we all know it was not a snake, it was a bee. So, you may easily make out that village medicine man was neither having any experience nor any qualification. Nothing. Because it was not a snake bite, it was a bee bite. And yes, before he could give any treatment, Raja's finger stopped hurting, because the time is also the best cure. The sting of the bee lost its effect on Raja, and that's why the pain subdued. And Raja was supposed to tell everybody about it, but he didn't tell. So dear children, silence every time is not good. The medicine man makes Raja's grandparents believe that Raja is safe because of his treatment and mantras. Raja's grandparent thanks the medicine man by giving him gifts, but Raja knows that the old man is a liar and has fooled everybody. So in-text questions. What did grandfather tell the old man to do? The grandfather told the old man to cure Raja. What two things did the old man do? He did two things. Number one, he recited some mantras, and number two, he gave water to him. Why was everyone sad and silent? Probably they thought he was stung by a poisonous snake and his life is in danger. Why did Raja's grandfather send gift to the old man? The grandfather sent the gifts to the old man because he thought that he has saved the life of his grandson, Raja. Do you think the old man cured Raja? No, not at all, because the pain subdued before the treatment, and plus he cured him for the snake bite, but he was bitten by a bee, not a snake. If you were Raja, would you keep quiet like him? No. This is my opinion. Well, you can come up with your ideas too. So, true and false. The old man gave Raja medicine to cure him. No medicine. It was rather mantras and water. There was no medicine. Only Raja knew that he had not been bitten by a snake. Absolutely true. Because nobody allowed him to speak. Raja's grandfather did not give Raja a chance to tell what had happened to him. Yes, because he held him tight in his arms and he didn't allow Raja to say anything. That's the thing. As time passed, the pain in Raja's finger stopped. Yes, because as the time passed, the bee sting lost its effect and Raja's pain in Raja's finger subdued. Now here are some words for you. So you have to find the opposite meaning. Loose, tight, happy, sad. These are the words in your text. Loudly, silently, noisy, quiet, young, old, safety, danger. Let's do. In the box given below, there is a list of adjectives which can be used for Raja, his grandparents or the old man. So we have to write them in A, B and C as the case may be. So Raja is A. Fine. So caring. Who was caring? Very clear. Grandparents were caring. Who was simple? Grandparents were simple. Who was obedient? Raja. Because he kept silent. He kept mum. He didn't say anything. Affectionate. Affectionate means loving. Loving were grandparents. Pretender. Pretender means the one who shows off. He was the old man. The old man who was a medicine man actually. He was pretender. He pretended that he has cured Raja from a dangerous snake bite. But actually we know it was not a snake bite. It was only a bee bite. Superstitious. Grandparents, because they believed that mantra could save the life. Nervous. Grandparents were nervous. Obviously, because they were worried about Raja. Who was innocent? Yes, Raja was innocent. Because he used to play with snakes and bees. Gullible. Gullible means who were actually duped, or you can say befooled. So grandparents were gullible because they were befooled by the old man, the old medicine man. Okay. Adventurous. Raja was actually adventurous because he kept on playing with bees and snakes, though forbidden by their parents, by his grandparents. Concerned means worried. Grandparents were worried. Who was clever? Old man. Because he simply somehow made grandparents to send him gifts without doing anything. He did nothing and simply made them give him gifts. Now let us do some grammar. Verb. We can classify verb as regular verb and irregular verb. So here are some sentences in front of you. And some of the words are underlined like shocked, called, reached, shouted, lived. Dear children, these underlined verbs are in simple past tense. Okay, because they tell us about the actions which happened in the past. And these are made by adding d or ed with the simple present tense verb. Okay, like shocked to shocked, and shout, shouted, call, called, reach, reached, live, lived, dive, dived. So these are actually regular verbs. Why? Because the spelling of the word doesn't change, only d or ed is added. So such verbs are known as regular verbs. At the same time, there are some irregular verbs like you see on the screen. Took, ran, threw, caught. These are actually irregular verbs. Why irregular verbs? Because their complete spelling change. Okay, you see the complete change in the spelling. For example, you can see the screen. Take, took, throw, threw, catch, caught. So you see the simple present tense form and simple past tense form are entirely different. The spelling is changed. So these are known as irregular verbs. Dear children, so there are regular verbs, irregular verbs. At the same time, there are some verbs, they don't change whether it is present tense or simple past tense, like you see on the screen here. Put. So we use put in simple present tense also and same put in simple past tense also. See the sentence. We put some extra sugar in our tea. This is simple present tense. I'm sorry, I put salt instead of sugar yesterday. So you can imagine. So here are some more examples of irregular verbs. Run, ran, hear, heard, bring, brought, buy, bought, deal, dealt, and bind, bound. Okay. So Now we are coming to the next grammar portion, which is known as adverbs. So here you see some of the sentences. She reads the newspaper. She reads the newspaper silently. So, how is she reading the newspaper? The answer is silently. So, dear children, this word silently is an adverb. Why? Because it is telling us more about the verb, and that's why it is an adverb. So, as you know, verbs are action words. Adverbs are words that tell us something more about verbs. So, see the sentences on the screen. And you see the underlined words: loudly, slowly, beautifully, fast. So, speaks loudly, walks slowly, dresses up beautifully, walks fast. So, all these adverbs are, all these underlined words are adverbs. And generally, these adverbs are made by adding ly to adjectives, like you see here in the sentence. And here are some more examples. You can see loud plus ly, loudly. Fine. Clear? So, but there is an exception of rule. We do not add ly to some adjectives to make adverb. It is not 100% true that all the adjective will get ly to make adverb. So, like for example, fast. We do not say I walk fastly, we say I walk fast. We don't add ly here. Okay. So, now let us write describing people. So, you see, Raja came home and wrote a description of the old man. So, before writing the description of the man, Raja noted some points given below. So, you are going to learn how to write the description of people. So, here are some points in front of you. Age, old. Physical features, tall, stout, white beard, shrewd looks, grey hair. Dress, long white robe. Behavior, polite and gentle. Special points, intelligent. Or you can say shrewd also. He was shrewd. So, based on these points, Raja wrote this. An old grey-haired man came out of the hut. He was short and stout and had a white beard. He wore a long white robe. He looked quite shrewd and intelligent. He was also very polite and gentle. Fine. So, this way we can write the description. So, here is a question for you. So, you may write the name of anyone. Age 35 years. Physical features, tall, heavy built, fair complexion, sharp nose. Nature, simple, friendly, helpful kind. Hobbies, singing, reading. Profession, teaching. Okay. So, you may write a description of a person based on these points. Okay. Now, what you have learned today? Yes, so you have learned that in an emergency, it is very important to find out what happened before reacting. If we want to avoid making mistakes, yes. Sometimes we unnecessarily complicate situations because we are influenced by our wrong beliefs, lack of knowledge, and fear of even harmless things. The simple problem of Raja's bee sting got complicated due to all of the above reasons. We also learned that we should beware of untrained medicine men, like the old man in the story, who cheat innocent people by creating fear in their minds. And now, here are some last questions for you. What do you think Raja felt when he had to sit in front of the old man to be treated by for a snake bite? Yes, he was feeling helpless because nobody was allowing him to say. And he must be feeling nervous also because he didn't know what is happening. Why do you think Raja's grandfather did not let Raja speak? Because he was very much concerned about him. Do you approve of Raja's silence? No, never. Because had he said the truth, all this chaos would have not happened. Confusion would have not happened. In your opinion, what kind of a person was the old man? He was a cunning, shrewd man who befooled the innocent people. Okay? If you were the old man, Would you accept the gift sent by Raja's grandfather? No, for me, never. You may think of your own opinion. You may give your opinion. You're free. But if you ask me this question, never, because I have not earned those gifts. I don't deserve those gifts because I have done nothing. Okay. So the honesty is the best policy. Many people are afraid of snakes. Why do you think they fear snakes? Do you think they are right? Yes, people are afraid of snake because it is a common notion in the head of the people that snakes are dangerous because they are poisonous. But we know out of 250 in India, only 70 species are poisonous. Do you think they are right? No, I don't think so. But the main reason of their fear is ignorance, because all of us don't know which snake is dangerous and which is not. That's the reason. You may add up your reasons as well. Fine. Thank you. Thank you.
वायरस देश एवं संपूर्ण विश्व में व्याप्त विषाणु जन्य समस्या